This is the Fox 5 RebZone Sports Show, presented by RC Willey. Your home, your way.
Welcome inside the RebZone. Kevin Bollinger alongside Running Rebels head coach Marvin Menzies, coming off a big win on senior night last night at Thomas and Mack. The place was rocking, and a grinded out win down the stretch for the Rebels.
Very fun game to coach. Stressful but fun. Lots of energy in the stands. Felt really good to hear the cheers and the volume go up when we needed our home court advantage to kick in. So it was a good time. It was a good time, and I was especially proud of the seniors and happy for the seniors, for the whole team, but especially Noah and Chris, because that's just a special day. You create some good memories on senior night.
We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about Noah and Chris here in a second. First, we want to take our look at the week, and we're going to begin with Saturday night's game against Boise State. As we said, it was senior night at the Mack.
Senior night at the Thomas and Mack as UNLV honored Chris Clyburn and Noah Robotham, who were playing their last true home game at the TNN. Nick Blair gets things rolling with this putback early on, but Boise was hot early, especially Justinian Jessup, who was pouring it in from long distance. The Broncos led by as many as 12 in the first half. UNLV would rally before the break, and it was the seniors coming through. Robotham from downtown, and Clyburn gave the Rebels the lead with this three. UNLV, though, was down 2 at the half. It got wild from that point on. Boise jumped out to a double-digit lead quickly in the second. Jessup getting the steal in the pull-up triple, and some defensive breakdowns, this one giving Alex Hobbs a free path to the basket. But once again, the Rebels rallied. Clyburn with the steal, and he heads the other way for the lay-in. Then Amari Hardy goes hard to the hole for 2. And UNLV got the lead back once again, and once again, it's Clyburn that does it with a 3. It was nip and tuck the rest of the way. Boise's Derek Alston gets the slam and the slap. Robotham answers with the long-distance 3. But just before the horn, Jessup pulls up and hits the jumper, and we were headed to overtime. Hobbs hit an early 3 to get Boise out in front, but the Rebels were not to be denied. Hardy cuts, and Robotham finds him for the lay-in. Then the exclamation point courtesy of Mbacke Diong, who throws it down, and the Rebel faithful were on their feet. Clyburn had 21, Hardy had 16, and Robotham had 13 points and 9 assists as UNLV wins a thriller in overtime, 85-81.
I don't think I could have capped it off any better. I got the right group of teammates, even though all the guys are young. Got a great coach who believes in me. All the coaches believe in me, and I'm home. And you know, myself and Chris, like, I don't think you're gonna find a couple of guys that are as laid back as me and him. You know, so it's just an unbelievable feeling. But you know, if I could run here all 4 years, that would have been awesome. But I think that old cliche, you know, everything happens for a reason. So it is what it is. But you know, got a W on senior night. Couldn't have gone out a better way.
This is real special, you know, especially being this first commit, you know, coming here when it was barely any players on the roster, and then being able to finish out through my 3rd year on senior night with a victory, double overtime thriller. Fans were loud. It was big time, you know, in front of my family as well, and it was something special.
Before we get into the game, I want to talk about each of the seniors, and let's start with Chris Clyburn, the first commit for you when you came to UNLV.
Without a visit.
Without a visit, and knowing that there were only 2 bodies on the roster, he kind of took a leap of faith, and it's turned out pretty good on both sides.
Well, like most of our players that are even on the roster now, the young guys, they really came based off of relationships, prior relationships. You know, Chris had a guy, and that guy was my guy, and the rest was history, you know. And, it's a very similar story to the rest of the guys on the team right now. But, you know, as the program moves forward, to get off track for a second here, but as the program moves forward, you can recruit to the winning and you can recruit to the success. But in the interim, we're doing a lot of this with the full staff's relationships throughout, you know, the U.S. and beyond. So it's been good. We got the right guys in, and now we just got to keep growing it. Chris's relationship, and we have a great relationship because he's grown so much in a short amount of time, relatively short amount of time. It's been a phenomenal journey for me. I don't think I could handle a lot of the extra stuff that comes with the job if I didn't feel like my players had my back as well. And I have never doubted their trust in me. I've never doubted their faith in me. And so they've made the journey a smoother journey for myself as well. And Noah referenced, that we believe in him, and it's so true because we see what they're made of.
And for Noah to come back home, played at Bishop Gorman, transferred to come back to play his senior year here. And this is a guy who maybe only played 1 year of games here at UNLV. People haven't heard the last of him. This is the kind of guy that's going to turn into a superstar in whatever field that he goes into. Absolutely.
Built and made from two of the best parents a young man can have, and Bobby and Marilyn. I think they, man, you couldn't ask for more steady people, more sincere, diligent, thoughtful parents, and as a result, you've got they've got great kids, and I was lucky to be able to coach one of them.
Let's talk about the game here for a second. In terms of you come back twice in this game, but then you grind it out at the end with kind of a gritty type win. That's kind of the evolution, I think, of this year's team from the beginning of the year to now, because that's a game that maybe in December that team might not have pulled out, but this team has evolved as we get here to March.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but that's probably a pretty good microcosm of the season, that yesterday's game. And so when you look at the adversity and the back and the forth and the ups and downs, we've had a lot of them, but they've always been a family. They've always been very tight-knit. They always haven't made the right basketball decision or shown the best technique or form. We were just watching a couple of the guys get beat off of defensively and so forth, but they keep fighting, they keep fighting, they keep fighting, and they bring their individual strengths every single day. So whether they're good offensively or good at rebounding or good at whatever their particular strength is right now, they always continually bring that, and as they grow on their weaknesses, that's when you're going to see the whole enchilada come into view, and it's going to be pretty appealing.
We're going to turn our attention to Wednesday now. The Running Rebels traveled up to Reno to take on the Wolfpack in the Silver State Showdown.
A sold-out and hyped-up crowd greeted the Running Rebels as the Wolfpack got off to a quick start. Cody Martin hit back-to-back threes, and Jordan Caroline did what he does so good, hitting the offensive glass for putbacks. UNLV worked hard to stay in it. Chris Clyburn goes coast to coast for the lay-in. Noah Robotham hit a three to beat the shot clock, and Clyburn followed with a triple of his own. But Caroline had a big first half, scoring inside and out. He had 13 and 9 in the first 20 minutes as UNR led 46-28 at the break. The Rebels fought back to cut into the deficit in the second. Amari Hardy gets the triple in the tap. Then a long pass to Robotham for a bucket. And Hardy getting penetration for two. UNLV was better defensively as well. The pressure on Caleb Martin forces the turnover. Clyburn goes the length of the floor. He gets the hoop and the harm. Hardy and Robotham connected from downtown, but every time UNLV threatened to get within single digits, UNR cranked it back up. Nobody gets the loose ball, and Cody Martin gets the bucket and the bump, and Caroline capped the night off with a three. He had 20. The Martin twins combined for 47 as the Rebels fall in Reno 89-73.
Same game as the first game. Came out slow. But we beat them in the second half once again, but you got to put two halves together.
So with the Wolfpack, obviously you have the big three there, and you hope to shut at least one of them down. All three ended up having big games. The tone was really set by Jordan Caroline with those offensive rebounds and putbacks kind of early on.
Early in the game, yeah. We got down, I think it was 13 or 15-7 or something like that, and it was just all him. It was just all Jordan with his tenacity around the basket. just bigger and stronger and more athletic than our pups, and you know, it's one of those deals where you just got to take the hit and just try to get back on your horse and, you know, give your best effort the next possession. And eventually we got it going a little bit. I was happy with the way they handled the adjustments at the halftime. Everything that we did offensively, I thought, worked out for us a little bit better in the half after the first half. But defensively, we still couldn't stop them. Once that train got rolling, that top end on that locomotive was pretty heavy. So they were hard to beat at home.
When you have a better second half like you do late in the conference schedule, how much can something like that carry over if you were to meet Reno in the conference tournament?
You know, I think holistically it sounds good, you know, for big picture, but I don't really think they're connected, especially when you get to tournament. Tournament time is a different energy, a different passion. It's do or die. It's win or go home for us in that situation. So I don't think that one can actually lead to the next, especially when you have games in between. Maybe if that was your last conference game and then your first tournament game, but otherwise, because then maybe the guys have a relatively recent memory of success, at least in those 20 minutes. But when you got stuff in between, you know, it's you got to move on to the next possession.
Well, we're going to move on to our next segment. Coming up here after the break, we are going to look at the week ahead. Only one game this week, but it's a big one as UNLV travels to Fort Collins to take on Colorado State in the regular season finale. We're going to break it down next.
You're watching the Fox 5 RebZone Sports Show, presented by R.C. Willey. Your home, your way.
UNLV with just one game this week. It's going to be a Saturday afternoon affair up at Fort Collins against Colorado State, and it's a Colorado State team that's really been surging. You saw them at the very beginning of the conference schedule. Totally different team than what you saw at the very beginning.
They are improving, and Nico's doing a great job. He came in and said he needed to establish a different culture, or his culture, I shouldn't say different, but the one that he wanted. He's done that from everything that I understand and hear through the grapevine. He's doing a phenomenal job with the guys getting to buy into the basketball, style of basketball that they're going to play. He's really utilizing his strengths, and big fella there. And then also, he's had a lot of ups and downs with injuries, like a lot of us have. But they've persevered through that for the most part. And they got a couple of those guys back, and that's when they started rolling. I know they had a couple guys out last night versus New Mexico on the road, but I'm not sure and know the status of those guys, whether they'll be available for us or not.
Nico Carvacho is somebody who had a big game, especially in the first half. In that first meeting, he's one of those matchup problems, I think, right?
He is a matchup nightmare is what he is. He's just so... it's like an old school, like a throwback center that just doesn't necessarily have to be super athletic or physically dominating to be effective, because he's just got a great feel around the basket, some of the best footwork, maybe the best footwork of any of the bigs in our conference. Really has a great knack for scoring, but then an even better knack for rebounding angles. Very, very efficient on both sides, offensively and defensively. If he doesn't get a double-double, it's a bad night. So that alone just tells you how efficient he is.
By the time we get to Saturday, there's a good likelihood that UNLV is going to be locked into their seed for the Mountain West tournament.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, based on what happens on Tuesday and Wednesday. Right. So is that a problem in terms of making sure everybody's kind of focused in? I don't want to call it a meaningless game because every game is meaningful. Right. But in terms of positioning and stuff, there's a good chance by then that game really might not mean a whole lot in terms of the standings.
And if that's the case, that's the case. But what it is another opportunity to go out what we love to do what we love to do. And it's another opportunity to grow with these young guys. And it's another opportunity to, put these guys in a position to do better than they've done before. Again, we got to play a better first half. So that's another chance to do it, right? We've got to be much better guarding the ball one-on-one and keeping guys in front of us and closeout scenarios. It's another opportunity to do that. So there's more of an opportunity to learn and grow in that environment. especially if we already have it locked up. If we don't, well, then we've got a whole nother purpose to the game. And so whatever scenario unfolds, we'll be ready to attack it.
We're looking forward to that game. Always fun to go to Fort Collins. We're going to pay some more bills right now. When we come back, a closer look at Mbacke Diong, who continues to become a better basketball player with every single game. You're going to hear from him next.
You're watching the Fox 5 RebZone Sports Show, presented by RC Willie. Your home, your way.
We are nearing the end of Mbacke Diong's sophomore season at UNLV, and his growth, not in height, but in basketball skills, has been really fun to watch.
Mbacke Diong has made great strides in his sophomore season at UNLV. The 6'11 center has seen an increase in all statistical categories and is becoming a larger presence on the defensive end and inside the Runnin' Rebels offense. Diong says he worked hard to get better both physically and mentally.
The second year is always like the year that you have to settle up, like to know what you're doing. So the freshman year was just like learning step, you know, coming out of high school. We didn't know like much about the game. Like college is different, like the people's, the arenas, 17,000 people watching you, it's just like crazy. So we just like get feel on it in the freshman year, but now we just know how to operate in those situations.
Block shots have become a Diong trademark. He's second in the conference in that stat, despite missing some games. It's something that he prides himself in.
I'll definitely take a block shot all the times. Yeah, I would love to have if I would have chosen, I would love to have like 10 blocks, then 20 points or 30 points.
That triggers a lot of what UNLV wants to do. But with Shakur Houston and Cheikhna Dembele out with injuries, Diong is the one big man left on the roster, which means he has to be conscious about staying on the floor and not getting into foul trouble. It's that slippery slope between being effective defensively without being careless.
You need to play aggressive every time you're on the court, but like I need to be more smart about how I guard people, especially on the post or on the help side.
Coming from Senegal, the adjustment to the American way of living is still a work in progress. Diong still can't find traditional food from his homeland here in Las Vegas, but he leans on his roommate Dembele, who is from Mali, to keep him grounded and to bounce basketball ideas off of.
Cheikhna is like he's smart, so he see the game different. Like when you do some mistake in the game, he can like talk to you here or like at home. Like you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you need to get this, you need to do this, and like I'm listening to him because he's showing us respect, and we gotta give him like that respect back.
Respect. It's not something you get, it's something you earn, and Diong is earning it as every game and every season passes.
So I remember when Mbacke had his first game at UNLV, and we talked about how he was going to be a bit of a project in terms of doing that. But the maturation of his basketball game over these last 2 years has been incredible.
Yeah, you know, things usually happen for a reason, and even if you don't see that reason, you just keep working. You just keep your head down, just keep working. And you think about having Shakur out, you know, potentially a conference MVP caliber type guy, and then having Cheikhna out, who was playing really good, really well, I should say, before he had his surgery on his finger. And then all of a sudden, you give this young guy a boatload of minutes, and man, he's taking advantage of it. You know, even JTT, who's coming off the bench behind him, is getting a chance to get some minutes that he might not otherwise have gotten. So there's just a lot of development from the program, for the program, based on the way that the chips are unfolding. You know, will we had a few more wins if we had those guys? Probably, but for the long-term growth, I like the way it's unfolding.
The key off-season for him to bulk up a little bit, I would assume, get some pounds on him.
You would assume correct. Yeah. We don't want to assume much, but you'd be absolutely correct. We want to get some some strength. And some guys just are wiry strong. You know, some guys don't necessarily put on the Sheckna or Shakur or JTT size. Mbacke, I don't know how he physically is going to, you know, his frame, how it's going to handle the weight and so forth. So we have to do it very scientifically to make sure that he keeps his bounciness and stays agile and doesn't become football playerish, you know, for the lack of a better word. So we have to watch that closely. But it's about strength and then using his greatest assets to make him a better player.
Well, we're looking forward to keep watching him develop over the next couple of years. One final timeout for us, then some closing thoughts from Coach Menzies and the Running Rebel Players of the Week. But as we go to break, here's a look at how other Mountain West teams did over the weekend.
You're watching the Fox 5 RebZone Sports Show, presented by RC Willey. Your home, your way.
All right, Coach, have a good week. We'll see you in Fort Collins for Saturday's game, and we'll break it all down next Sunday in our final RebZone of the season. Thanks for joining us for this one. We leave you with the Running Rebel Plays of the Week. Good night.
Fox 5 RebZone Sports Show was presented by RC Willey. Your home, your way.